Hello, and welcome to the Full Metal Alchemist trading card game tutorial. My name is Jack, a former player of the game, and also a fan of the anime series. Through this tutorial, I will not only show you how to play the game, but I'll also give you a brief history of the game, and as well, give you some tips on how to find cards and also play with your friends. Thank you for taking your time to choose this tutorial. I hope you enjoy, and let's get started. Before I get into how to play the game, let me give you some few background and game facts on the Full Metal Alchemist TCG. This game is based on the anime Full Metal Alchemist, which details the journey of Edward and Alphonse Elric as they seek the Philosopher's Stone to return their bodies to normal after a failed attempt to bring their mother back. This game was released in 2005 by Joyride Entertainment and unfortunately ended in 2007. Over those 2 years, there were 7 sets that were provided for the game, which are detailed in the slide, and have over 1,000 cards from your favorite characters within the series and moments within the anime. And with that brief introduction, let's go ahead and get started in learning how to play the game and the objective of the game. In the game Full Metal Alchemist, your objective as a player is to build a team comprised of your leader and allies and utilize attachments and events and advantages to win 9 or more clue points. These clue points represent the clues of finding the Philosopher's Stone. Not only can you win by finding 9 or more clue points, but if your opponent has only defeated characters on their side of the field, then you also are declared the winner. As mentioned briefly in the prior slide, the Full Metal Alchemist TCG has multiple cards to help players achieve their goal of winning 9 or more clue points or defeating all the characters on their opponent's side of the field. These cards include leader cards, ally cards, attachments, advantages, events, and location cards. There are also Philosopher's Stone cards, which came in later sets in the game. While those cards are important, it's vital to understand how each of the mentioned cards play in winning games and defeating your opponent. This tutorial will not cover Philosopher's Stone cards, but we'll cover the basics of how to play the mentioned cards in your deck and how they can help you win the game. With that being said, let's start off with the leaders and how they are used to build your deck and how they are used to win against your opponent. Your leader stack contains one of the most important cards in the Full Metal Alchemist TCG, which are the leaders, comprised of multiple factions such as the Elric faction, the Homunculus faction, military faction, and rebel faction. Your leaders greatly determine the level of strategy that you will play, the allies that you can contain in your deck, and the events that you can use against your opponent. Allies within the Full Metal Alchemist TCG could be considered the second most important card in your deck. They, along with your leader, help you to defeat your opponent to win the 9 location points needed for victory, and can help play events and use attachments against your opponent. Events are another crucial part in your deck building within the Full Metal Alchemist TCG. Dictated on the card in which phase they can be played, events allow the players to activate effects that can drastically change the flow of the game. These events are another vital part in defeating your opponent to receive the 9 location points to defeat your opponent. Locations also play an important role within the Full Metal Alchemist TCG. As mentioned earlier, you must win 9 or more location points to defeat your opponent. unless you defeat them by defeating all of their characters that are currently within play. Choosing the correct locations play an important role in deck building, as you must find locations that benefit your allies and your leaders depending on their attributes. For example, the location Alchemist Testing Grounds is an alchemy location. The benefits of having alchemy locations typically favor military and Elric factions. In the top left corner of Alchemist Testing Grounds, you can see the location point, which is 1. In the text box, the battle is alchemy. The goal is alchemy +1, which means that in your search party, once all the battles have been conducted, your search party must contain 1 or more alchemy to win the location. Below that is the effect that this location will have on the field when it is currently in play. Attachments are another card type within the Full Metal Alchemist TCG that play an important role in defeating your opponent. Not only do they provide new effects for allies and leaders, but they also can increase their attributes beyond their printed attributes. While I will discuss how they are paid for later in the tutorial, just understand that attachments can play a vital part in defeating your opponent and are used in every deck within the Full Metal Alchemist TCG. The last card type that I will discuss are advantages. Advantages, which are played within the recruitment step, provide effects that can last for the entire length of the game as long as they are on the field. As seen with the advantage Charismatic Leader, as long as this advantage is on the field, your leader can control 2 additional allies, which can be an important part in defeating your opponent and winning the game. With that being said, let's move on to deck building, turn sequence, and more. Now that we've covered all the card types, let's get to deck building. For your main deck, your deck must contain at least 60 cards, with no more than 3 copies of any card with the same title and subtitle. Additionally, your deck cannot contain any leaders or locations. For your location deck, which is separate from your main deck, it must contain at least 9 location cards, with no more than 1 copy of any card. Now we will move on to the different phases within a turn. The first phase is the draw phase, followed by the power-up phase, the recruit phase, the main phase, the search phase, and finally the cleanup phase. This is just a brief overview, and I will get into more details of each of these phases in the following slides. Before I go into any detail about the different phases within the Full Metal Alchemist TCG, I want to briefly explain how to set up a game of Full Metal Alchemist TCG. The area in front of each player is the home area, and the area in front of that is the search area, which is where you will fight and battle for location cards. As you place your level 1 leader in your home area, the following levels of that leader are placed in numerical order, just so when you advance your leader, they can be properly placed on top of your level 1. As you place your level 1 leader and reveal it to your opponent, you then search your deck for allies to come onto the field and start the game. But there are a few restrictions that you must follow. If you have a leader with the hero keyword, you cannot play a villain. The same goes for villain leaders. You cannot play a hero ally with a villain leader. Additionally, the cost of your allies must be less than or equal to your leader's command. Furthermore, you cannot have more allies than your leader's command. And you cannot play an ally with the same name as your leader. Also, but not least, is you cannot play the same ally with the same name unless it has the mob keyword. With that being said, let's start with the start of the turn with the draw phase and going into further detail. First, let's start with the draw phase. In the draw phase, both players draw 2 cards from the top of their deck and add them to their hand. There is no maximum hand size in the Full Metal Alchemist TCG. Then, the player with the lowest total clue points reveals a location card from their location deck. If both players have the lowest total amount of clue points, as in at the start of the game when both have 0, the player that reveals a location with the fewest total clue points will play for that location. If there is a tie for those locations, the player that is the active player for that turn, which is the total wits of each player's team, their search party, that player will choose the location that he or she wants to play for that turn. At that time, once the total clue points have been determined and the location has been figured out, the location that is not being played for is placed at the bottom of the location deck, and the turn continues. The next phase after the draw phase is the power-up phase. At this time, both players can either 1. Take the top card of their main deck and place it underneath their leader to gain an experience, or 2. They can advance their leader. To advance your leader must have more experience than his level, 2 or more for a level 1, 3 or more for a level 2, and so on and so forth. Once you determine either that you're going to add experience or advance your leader, if you're going to advance your leader, you take the experience that is underneath your leader card, you discard it to the trash, and you advance your leader to the next level. The next phase that I'm going to discuss is the recruit phase. In this phase, you can either 1. Recruit an ally that is equal to or lower than your current leader's command. You can replace an ally with an ally that is a different name from your hand with an ally that is on the field. You can dismiss an ally to make room for other allies that are within your hand. You can play an advantage that has the same cost equal to or lower than your current leader's command. You can either play an event or an ability that strictly requires that you play it within the recruit phase, or you can pass and do nothing. To determine who goes first in the recruit phase, the player that has the most wits within their search party at that time is the player that begins this phase. And at that time, you continue to play cards until both players pass, which requires you and sends you to the next phase, which is the main phase. The next phase that I want to discuss is the main phase. In this phase, it begins just as the recruit phase, which means that the player with the highest wits starts the turn, and a play or pass is continued until both players pass. In this phase, each player can either 1. Play an attachment from their hand, 2. Play an event or activate an ability that strictly states that it must be played or activated in the main phase, or 3. They pass. As stated, once both players pass, the next phase, which is the search phase, happens. The phase following the main step that I would like to discuss is the search phase. The search phase is broken down into 2 steps. First, the assignment step, Next, the action step. In the assignment step, the player with the lowest wits assigns their allies or leader to the search party to fight for the location that was played in that turn. Next, starting with the action step, the player with the highest wits begins either 1. Initiating battle by resting their ally or leader and choosing a target for their attack. 2. Playing an event or ability that strictly states that it must be played within the search phase. Or 3. Pass and do nothing. The search phase follows the play or pass turn sequence. Once both players pass, then determining who wins the location is followed in the victory step. In the following slides, I will go into further detail of the battle phase and how it occurs and how the victory step happens. Entering the battle phase in the Full Metal Alchemist TCG is simple. As the active player within the search phase, you may rest 1 or more of your characters to attack a character on the opposing side. Once targets have been chosen, the opposing player may choose to block the attack if they have a character that can do so. Once that is done, starting with the attacking character, you continue with the play or pass method. At this time, you can play events and abilities that strictly dictate that you can play them within the battle phase, and this continues to both the attacking player and the opposing player. Once both players pass, at that time, depending on the location and the battle that you have to choose, compare the attributes, and at that time you will determine if the defending character loses, if the attacking character loses, or if both characters lose at that time. Beginning with this slide, in the next 4 slides, we will follow a simple battle along with how to conduct the victory step and how you win locations. As stated in previous slides, the first step in the battle phase is the maneuver step. At this time, the active player must choose 1 ready character or more that he or she has and a target for that attack. In this example, the current location being battled for is Wine Fountain. The battles that can take place at this location is Alchemy, Strength, and Wits. For this battle, the active player chooses Edward Elric to attack Yoki. Note: the opposing character that is attacked does not need to be in active or rested mode. Both can be attacked. So, to make this occur, the active player rests his Edward Elric, chooses the attack target, which is Yoki, and we move to the action step. After the maneuver step, the action steps take place. Beginning with the active player, you can either 1. Choose to play an event, or 2. Choose to use an ability that the attacking character has, or an ability that a character has in the search party to help in this battle. In this example, Edward chooses to not use an event, which causes it to pass to the other player, which has Yoki. The defending player chooses to play Frenzy. After applying the event's ability, Yoki now has 3 Alchemy to Edward Elric's 3 Alchemy. In response to the event Frenzy, the active player chooses to play Daring Gambit as a react event ability. At this time, Frenzy is cancelled and its effects are nullified. To play Daring Gambit, Edward Elric must pay an equivalent exchange cost for the higher event cost. As you can see, Daring Gambit's cost is 4 wits. Edward Elric's wits is 2. To pay this cost, you must discard 2 cards from your hand to the discard pile. Once that occurs, the event is played, and then it continues with the play or pass steps within the battle phase. Once both players pass, then a winner is declared in the battle. At that time, both characters' alchemy is compared, and the character with the highest alchemy survives, the one with the lowest is defeated, or if both are the same, they are both defeated. In this example, Edward Elric's 3 alchemy is higher than Yoki's 0 alchemy, due to Frenzy being cancelled. So, in this instance, Yoki is flipped face down, and the search phase continues. Once both players pass, the victory step begins. At this time, both players count the remaining attributes of the characters that are left within the search parties. In this example, one player has no characters, while another player has 2 characters left, which are Edward Elric and Trisha Elric. Defeated characters do not have their wits counted in this victory step. Edward Elric has 2 wits, while Trisha Elric has 3 wits. Additionally, Trisha Elric provides 1 more wits to Edward Elric, which combines for a total of 6 wits, which easily meets the goal of Wine Fountain. At that time, the winner of this location is the player that has Trisha Elric and Edward Elric, and Wine Fountain is added into the victory pile. After the victory step, the cleanup phase begins. At that time, all characters must return home to their respective players' home areas. Then, during the action step during the cleanup phase, abilities that activate during the cleanup phase activate at this time. Then, lastly, the recovery step. At this point, each player is given 1 free recovery. If your leader is defeated at this time, you must recover your leader. Also, at this time, at any point, if all of your allies and your leader is defeated, you lose the game. To save any additional allies, you may discard an ally with the same name from your hand to the discard pile to recover that ally. So, for example, if your leader is defeated, you may recover your leader. If you have an ally on the field, such as Yoki, that was defeated in our example, you may discard a Yoki that is in your hand to recover any additional allies with the name Yoki. So, in essence, what this means is not only did you recover your leader, but you also recovered Yoki and any other allies that you may have in your hand. Once that is completed, you begin all the phases again, from the recruitment step all the way to the cleanup phase, until there is a winner chosen, either by one player losing all of their allies and their leader, or a player is chosen as a winner by getting all 9 location points. I would like to thank you for watching this video. My hopes in producing this video is just to shed light on this wonderful game that I love and many others love. If you're looking to play, Untap has every card that was in the game, and also there are other various retailers that still have cards to this day. We also have a Facebook page that has older players and collectors that can help in your collecting or playing journey. Again, thank you for watching this video.